Let me tell you something I learned in Peru which changed the way I think about selling. And honestly, it's the reason why most coaches and creators are broke. In the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly why trying to sell is the fastest way to kill your sales, and why a random group of street vendors in Peru taught me more about sales than any sales book I've ever read. This is the difference between converting 3% and 40%, and I'm not exaggerating on this number. Very recently, I traveled to Peru with a charity called Rifcom, and we went on a 4-day Inca trail. I was completely off the grid for 4 days and a complete dopamine detox. I traveled from London all the way to Cusco, which took about 24 hours, and I was exhausted. And we stayed in Cusco for 3 days to acclimatize to the altitude. In this time, on every street corner, there was a street vendor trying to sell some sort of product. We were getting hustled. Paintings, massages, pictures with llamas, you name it. Don't get me wrong, I respect the hustle, but it does get a bit annoying, and I'm going to tell you why. You see, these street vendors just push their products in your face, and naturally your walls go up. Some of the paintings were quite nice, and a massage was tempting, but in some weird way, I didn't really want to be influenced by getting pushed about. And frankly, I didn't care. I wasn't in need of a painting or a massage. But there is an underlying reason why I didn't buy, and I'm going to explain it now. So to understand selling, you need to understand human behavior, because at the end of the day, this is what you're doing. You're influencing human behavior. And these street vendors don't know this, which is exactly why they push a product in your face and tell you it's a special price just for you. We've all heard it before. I would say in a group of 30 people, only one person bought something from these street vendors, and that's about a 3% conversion rate on a group. And it's not great. However, one place did it right, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. During one of our tour days, we stopped off at a textiles factory, they called it. When we got to this textiles museum, we were told a bit of history about the farming in Peru, how they kept llamas and alpacas. We even got to feed some llamas and alpacas, and then we were welcomed with some mint tea. With our cup of tea in hand, we were sat down and showed the whole process of ancient methods of harvesting llama wool, how they cleaned it with a special tree root, and how they found and made different dyes, dyed the llama wool, and finally how the wool was spun into strands. The presentation was 20 minutes. It was interesting, it was new, and it was funny. After the presentation, this lady showed us to a group of elders who were sewing the strands together to make these jumpers, hats, and ponchos in real time. Again, something new and fascinating. And after this, she showed us to a stall where they were selling these jumpers, they were selling these hats and scarves. And very naturally, 40% of our group went over and bought a new jumper, a new hat, and a couple ponchos. And when I was standing at the stall, I just realized this group had pulled off a sales masterclass. What a difference. Because the jumpers, the hats, and the scarves were quite similar to what the street vendors were selling. But they've converted 40% of the group compared to just 3%. I want to share the reason why these people bought from the second group rather than the first group. In summary, people bought because their guard was down. We actually didn't even know we were being sold to in the first place. We were in a zero pressure situation. Reason number one, we were not being pushed into a sale compared to the street vendors who demanded attention to try and win that sale quickly. Reason number two, regardless of whether it's true, but as a customer, I felt more like a guest, being shown the Peruvian history and culture of their clothing, and not just a walking wallet in the street. Reason number three, they created emotional value towards their products through their rich history and their process. Reason number four, they told us a story which actually created and engaged that emotional value to us as the customer. In the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Carnegie, the author, pushes the narrative of when speaking in someone's interest, you influence them far more than any argument. And that is what they did right. They knew the tourists wanted to learn the rich history of their clothing and that their money is going to hard-working families. In comparison to the haggling and arguing with the street vendors, the Textiles Museum got it right. We can compare this to the info space because it does sound awfully like the online space, doesn't it? How many VSLs and ads do you see of people pushing and flexing their lifestyle or their new car and saying, if you don't buy this, you're going to be poor or fat forever? If you've seen a few, yes, because they're out there. And they do make sales, but only the 3%. To get to that 40%, we need to learn from the lovely Peruvian lady. Firstly, we want to teach. We want to create some value. We want to make it funny and fascinating and really pique their interest. Then you want to put your story behind the whole narrative. You want to make it relatable. And finally, you don't want to pitch. You want to create an experience. If you can incorporate this into your content to pre-sell your offer and pair it with our content ecosystem, you will have a much easier time closing your clients. At the end of this video, I'll put a link to another video I've made about the content ecosystem so you can learn more about it. To wrap up, next time you feel the urge to push your offer, remember this: the street vendor sold to 3% and the experience sold to 40%. So that's it. Give value and be relatable. Drop me a follow on Instagram, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.